It is once again time for my weekly NFL selections, and we're finally here at week 5. But before we get to my picks, we obviously have to look back at how I did in week 4. And here we go. Take a look at this. A bit of the same as how I did in week 3, only an added a tie right between the Cowboys and the Packers. Let me know what you think about this. I just counted that as a tie for myself, so I'm giving it down at the bottom, a point there on my record for the tie. But overall, not bad. The surprising result for me, obviously, on the left side of your screen there is the Chargers-Giants. I thought the Chargers were going to play a lot better than they did, but Justin Herbert had a lot of trouble, especially with his offensive line, getting injured and whatnot. On the right side, the Ravens, they look in trouble, man. The Ravens look big time in trouble, and that was a big of a shocker to me as well. But overall, kind of where I lost was kind of flip-floppy games in my opinion, so I'm pretty proud of myself for how I did in week 4. Pretty happy, but let's see if we can do better here in week 5. So let's get it going. So starting off here in week 5 with Thursday Night Football with the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Now this one, the teams are fully healthy. I would say it's a really good game, and I think a lot of people would believe that too. But for how the season has gone for the 49ers with all their injuries, they're in trouble here, especially against the Rams team who has done really well this year to start. Defense has been strong. The offense has been just as good as they have been over the last couple of years as well. So this game's leaning towards the Rams, and that's what I'm believing as well. I'm taking the Rams to win Thursday Night Football. Then on the Sunday, where we start with another European matchup. This one's being held at Tottenham Spurs Stadium, and it is between the Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns. Minnesota played back-to-back weeks in Europe, so hopefully they have climatized more to that European time zone. As we all know how last week's game went against the Steelers, not that very good for the Vikings. The Browns are coming in. Dylan Gabriel's getting the start this week for the Browns, so we'll see how he goes there. Defensively, the Browns have been solid again all year. Yes, they had a bit of trouble against the Lions offense, but that was kind of expected how the result of that game was going to go. Looking at this game, though, if Minnesota's a bit more acclimatized to the time zone, that might help more than it will help the Browns, obviously, who have just come over there. But I'm going to take the chance on Dylan Gabriel here. I'm actually going to pick the Browns to win this game. I think their defense is really strong, especially against that Vikings offense that hasn't been that great over the last few weeks. So I'm going to be taking the Browns defense here to push through and get them that win. Then we move on to the 1 o'clock window where we have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Jets. The Cowboys coming off that crazy tie against the Packers that we already mentioned. I think this game's promising for them. The Jets defense has not been that good, as we just saw them against Miami over the last couple of days. Offensively, it seems like Justin Fields is the bulk of this offense. It really does seem like it. So it's just not too promising for the Jets compared to the Cowboys, who had a great week last week. Even though they tied, it was still a great week against a solid defense in the Packers. So looking at this, I'm taking the Cowboys on the road, and they're going to win in New York. Then we go to the other New York team, and that is the Giants, and they are taking on the New Orleans Saints. What can I say about the Saints that I have not said over the last couple of weeks? I don't know. Listen, I think they played pretty well against the Bills, but some people were kind of saying, and I kind of agree with them, that the Bills are kind of playing to more of their level. So that game last week is kind of tossed in the air a bit. But again, the Saints just not a super strong team offensively, not a super strong team defensively. The Giants, though, looked really rejuvenated under Jackson Dart. And I think they're going to continue that, especially after a win against a team like the Chargers. And I'm going to take the Giants to win this game at the Dome. I just don't believe that the Saints have anything going for them. Meanwhile, the Giants, they look really different and they look really good. Now we got the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts back at home for week 5, coming off that loss last week to the Rams. The Raiders have just not been good, and it kind of goes with what I said about the Saints. It's just been the same narrative week over week over week. Offensively, they seem like they should be at least some bit good, but they're just not. Brock Bowers has been invisible almost all year after coming off a great year last year. The Colts, yes, they lost last week, but not by much, and that's really promising towards the Colts. I think a lot of people are looking at last week's game saying they were going to get killed. Overall, they still played very, very, very well. So I'm personally going to take the Colts in this one just because it's just an absolute mismatch between the two teams, and the Colts are just way better. Now, our next game, I don't think many people want to watch, and maybe even fans of these teams. It's the Miami Dolphins taking on the Carolina Panthers. Boy, that Tyreek Hill injury last week, that really hurt the Dolphins. It really does. I hope Tyreek all the best. I mean, that looked nasty. Watching that happen on TV, that looked very bad. But now they go up against a Carolina Panthers team who just got absolutely roasted by Baker Mayfield. So, yeah. I mean, that was more of the franchise, not so much the team, but still, the team is not that great. The team's not good. They have not looked great at all this year, maybe besides one game. Miami, I think, still has the upper hand in this game. I think they still have a stronger offense than the Panthers do. The defense, though, for Miami, a bit shaky, but I think they'll do pretty good against the Carolina Panthers. So I'm going to take the Dolphins to win this game. Again, this is another mismatch, even though both these teams have had just really rough starts to the year, but it's going to be the Dolphins in this one, and I'm fairly sure of it. Next, we got the Eagles. They're back at home taking on the Denver Broncos. The Broncos coming off a fantastic win against the Bengals, but we all know it's the Bengals. Now, you have to play the Philadelphia Eagles, who, once again, offensively have not looked as strong as we thought they would this year. Now they're going up against a tough Broncos defense, so this will be a really good test for the Eagles going forward. I still just think, though, that they are the better team. Philadelphia is still the better team than the Broncos. They still have a great defense that will go up against that Broncos offense. So I hate to say it, but I'm taking the Eagles on this one simply purely because they are the better team than the Broncos. It will be a challenge, though. I think this game will actually be fairly close, but I am going to take the Eagles on this one just due to their experience and their overall skill. Now for our final 1 o'clock game on Sunday, it is the Houston Texans taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Oh boy, this is going to be a doozy. Lamar Jackson, doubtful to play on Sunday after he got injured last week. And along with the other injuries that are plaguing the Ravens right now, I just can't pick them in this game. The Texans are a bit more of a healthy side. They're looking a bit stronger now over the last couple of weeks. The Ravens defensively have also not looked good all year. If you play fantasy and you had the Ravens in fantasy, or you still do, I understand how you're feeling right now. I just hate to say it, but I'm taking the Texans on this one. The injury toll for the Ravens just is too high right now, and a team that injured, they're not going to have great luck against a team like the Texans. So I'm taking the Texans to win this one. So our first game in the 4 o'clock window is the Arizona Cardinals hosting the Tennessee Titans. The way I would describe this game is a game of two failed offenses. I mean, an offense that can't do anything in the Titans, but we kind of expected that, and a failed offense in the Arizona Cardinals, who just seem to hit a brick wall every time they're in the red zone. They still get touchdowns. I'm not saying the Cardinals offense is that horrible, but they still have not reached their full potential where they should be, in my opinion. They should be doing a lot better offensively. But I'll tell you what, I'm nagging on them, but I still think they're going to win this game. They still have a much stronger team than the Titans. And of course, in football, you need to score to win games. And if there's any team that's going to score more points than the Arizona Cardinals, it is not the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to go and pick the Cardinals to win this game. Now we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, coming off of that Thursday night win last week, seem very strong. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, although it was close, lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in a really tough game. I think this one's a pretty big toss-up. I think this one can honestly go either way, in my opinion. But I'm going to use the case here of home field advantage. And who has home field advantage in this game? It is Seattle, and we all know how loud Lumen Field can get. We all know how crazy bonkers their fans are. I'm taking the Seahawks in this game. I really do think it's a toss-up, but when I'm looking at the area that this game is being held in and the stadium itself, it is Lumen Field. It is the Seahawks. They will win. Now we got another fairly lopsided game, in my opinion, and I believe it will go this way. It is the Detroit Lions in Cincinnati taking on the Bengals. Boy, oh boy, do the Bengals need Joe Burrow or what? I mean, I think we already knew that when he went down, but now they really, really need him. They got to go to church every Sunday or something to pray that he gets better faster because they need him. I believe this Lions offense is just absolutely going to feast on the Bengals defense. The Lions offense has done a lot better ever since that week 1 loss to the Packers. They just seem like they're really rolling, and they're just kind of rolling downhill, but in a good way. And I don't think many things are going to change. This Bengals defense has been beat up, roughed up, every word in the book you could say about a banged up defense. This game just speaks Lions to me. I think it speaks Lions to many people around the NFL, and that's how I see it. The Lions will absolutely crush the Cincinnati Bengals. Now to our final 4 o'clock game on Sunday. It is the Washington Commanders in Los Angeles taking on my Chargers. The Chargers coming off that loss to the Giants. Justin Herbert did not play all that great in that game, although he did lose a few O-linemen to injuries. He already has lost a couple already this year, so a beat up O-line. Now to the Commanders on the other side, it looks like Jaden Daniels will go on and play in this game, so the offense is going to be back up and running here for the Commanders, unlike last week against the Falcons. I think overall, with the injuries that the Chargers are dealing with, I think this will be a bit of a toss-up game in my opinion. But if I'm still looking at how great of a defense the Chargers team still has, I hate to say it, Commanders fans, but I'm going to go with my Chargers here. They're at home. Yes, that won't mean much. I even know that. But I'm taking the Chargers to win this game. I think their offense is still very strong besides the O-line being injured. Defense is still very strong, so I'm taking the Chargers at home. Now to our primetime games this week, starting with the New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football. A divisional matchup here that I think deserves a primetime game in my opinion. Obviously, you have Drake May, the up-and-coming quarterback, versus Josh Allen, who will most likely win MVP already this year. We already are kind of calling it now. The Bills are at home, and we all know how the Bills do at home. We all know how the Bills have been playing this year. The one key thing, I think, for the Bills this week is to not play down to the Patriots level. That's what they did last week against the Saints. They got to kind of clear that out of their mind. They got to play how they want to play. They got to clear that game last week from their mind. Yes, they still won, but they got to clear out how they played, and they got to kill the Patriots, basically. The Patriots, on the other hand, just good luck. I think the Patriots have played pretty well overall this season so far, but you're up against the Bills. I'm sorry, Patriots fans. It's not going to go so well for you this week, and I think you probably know that as well. I'm taking the Bills on Sunday night. And now for Monday Night Football to end off this week, and we got the Kansas City in Jacksonville taking on the Jaguars. Who would have thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would be 3-1 to start the year? I don't think many people would, and now they're going up against a Kansas City team who has won their last 2 games. They've looked very strong the last 2 games. Yeah, I mean, some people will say, well, they played the Ravens' banged-up defense, and yes, that's true. But they have looked very good offensively as well. Patrick Mahomes has finally risen back up again, and what some people are calling MVP level. So we'll see how he performs here against Jacksonville. It's going to be really interesting. Jacksonville being the home team, I think that's definitely an advantage for them. I mean, for considering how well they're playing, I think the fans have something to cheer about here. But we all know it. Chiefs voodoo, I think, might come in a factor. And I mean, I'm joking about it here throughout the season, but I still do believe it's always around. I'm taking the Chiefs to win this game. Even though they've banged up and injured, I do believe they will win. Sorry, Jacksonville, but the dream of being 4-1, I don't think is very that strong, especially against a championship winning team in the Chiefs. All right, boys and girls, so there you have it, my selections for Week 5 in the NFL. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about my predictions. Were they bad? Were they good? Let me know. Also, leave a like on the video if you have not yet, and subscribe to the channel for more weekly picks just like these. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the football this week. Peace.